Hi everyone. Today I wanted to share something that I've done recently that has helped my marriage in a big way. And this is the enneagram. And the enneagram is like a personality system that it's aimed to kind of identify somebody's characteristics and personality traits and how emotion drives their lives and how we engage with others. So, my husband and I, we're not like the type that's actively fighting or arguing or anything like that. It's just, I don't know, I was feeling like a little bit of a rut. And a little bit of backstory, we've had 3 miscarriages in the last year, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster in that. And I know, so that was definitely going to throw my hormones and whatever for a real ride, and it really has. So I had been feeling a little bit out of control, just a little bit unseen and very misunderstood by my husband. For example, I'm the type of person that thrives when there's outer order. So the whole saying outer order, inner calm, totally embodies how I feel about any given situation. And my husband is the type, he's more of an organized chaos type, where as long as something's functional and is not inhibiting the current task at hand, it doesn't bother him. He literally does not see clutter, just doesn't even register to him. Whereas for me, it seemed I need the house and I need our lives to be in a certain state of being so I feel functional as a person and as a professional and as a parent and as a partner and all that. And so that's just one minor example of how we just were not connecting. And when you feel disconnected with a partner, that can be really weighing, and I think it can be really have a really big impact on all areas of your life. And even though nothing had happened, there was no big fight, there was no big blowout or fallout or whatever, it was all these little things that started to kind of build up, and they were compounding, and they were just starting to weigh on me a little bit. Yeah, I was kind of questioning everything, but again, I think probably a lot of that was hormones too, but I was feeling very misunderstood. So, and it's not that we hadn't tried to converse and communicate and talk and whatever, because I feel we've had the same conversation, or we had the same conversation 50 times over, literally the exact same. Coming out of those conversations, we did not understand each other any better. For whatever reason, we could not communicate our frustrations in a way that the other one could see and could understand. And we could both be looking at the exact same situation and see it completely differently. It just wasn't healthy. We were on a Ferris wheel, never not getting anywhere. And one evening we were talking about personality traits and how they are so different from person to person, and how one's traits will drive other areas of their lives. So how are they going to function in a workplace, and how are they going to function in a relationship or as a parent or whatever, and how are they going to see life? It really just they're just so different. So then we get to talking, and I know he and I had both done Myers-Briggs for different jobs or employers or whatever, and it's kind of a fun assessment. Anyway, we realized that neither one of us had done the Enneagram. We didn't know our type or our number or whatever. So one evening we just we just found an online test, poured ourselves some glasses of wine and took the test, and we found a free online, nothing, it took 5 minutes, it was no big deal. It kind of changed a lot for us, and it was really surprising because I didn't have any expectations going in. We were literally regular evening, the kids were in bed. I think we could both sense that things were tense, but we weren't fighting. We were just there, and it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. It was just kind of somewhere in between. And so, why not? We took the test, and we figured out, it told us our scores, and it told us our type and whatever. We could not agree more. I think that, and it was really fun too, once you have a couple glasses of wine in you too, it's I feel the lines of communication were opening up, and I feel we were a little bit more relaxed. I think it's really hard to hear less than ideal things about yourself. So whether it be traits or characteristics or descriptions, I think it's hard to hear from another person, or regardless of who that person is. But in this case, because it's an assessment, it's not any person telling you your shortcomings, basically. I think it's easier to hear, and it's easier to process from a less personal, less attacked feeling way. And it really, really helped us. It really helped us to see situations through the lens of the other. And it was something that we weren't really able to do, I guess, before. We weren't doing effectively. So yeah, I couldn't agree with our assessments anymore. Like, I was basically a 1 in 4. 4s are defined by their belief that they are different from other people, and by their feelings of envy for what others have. 4s have the sense that something's missing from their lives, and they worry that they will never have the happiness that other people experience. At their core, 4s passionately long for the type of deep connection that will make them feel whole and accepted. I mean, that was my number 1 trait, and that was what matched me, like 98% match. I could not agree with this more. And I would say the feelings of envy are not really, I agree with the envy, but I honestly think a lot of this comes back to like adoption baggage. So I do envy these deep connections. I envy feeling whole and accepted, and I just think it definitely like captures me like in a nutshell. Like, I feel like, you know, even the very first thing says defined by their belief that they are different from other people. Like, that's how I felt my whole life. And feeling that, you know, something's missing from their lives, they worry they will never have the happiness that others experience. Like, all of that stuff. Obviously, these are very vague descriptions, and that's why so many people can like relate to them. And you can kind of fill it in from whatever matches from your personal experience. So, and I get it. And this is like a silly, you know, like a silly assessment. It's basically like, you know, back in the day when you took like those like beauty magazine quizzes or whatever that tells you your whatever. And so it's kind of like that. But I think regardless of what it is, regardless of, you know, how silly or not it is, for us, for my husband and I feel like it really was what we needed. Like in that in that moment, in that like time, and this was weeks ago now, but it's been such a positive thing. And I don't know I'm not saying it's going to be the same for everyone, but I think that it really made me look at myself like through a different lens, and it really validates for me some of my feelings and some of like why I am like the way I am in a lot of ways. And I don't know, so the other description that matched me like pretty perfectly was number 1. 1s are defined by their belief that everything must be in order. They show great commitment and determination to improve conditions that they find need improvement, and they are forward and encouraging others to improve their performance too. So I think this also captures me pretty accurately. And then my husband was actually a 9, and 9s are defined by a desire to live in peaceful harmony with their environment. They want a sense of balance and calm, and aspire to a kind of homeostasis where nothing disturbs their inner peace. They tend to be easygoing and accepting of what is happening around them, but can become resistant and willfully oblivious when something in the environment threatens to throw off the balance. So I think that a 4 and a 9, which is what we are, I think that I think we looked up this as well. Like, it was so interesting. Honestly, I think everybody should do this, like with a partner or whatever. I think it's just a fun activity. I mean, it's free, it's available, it's accessible. Like, why not? But we actually looked up the relationship of 4s and 9s and how they interact with one another in like a romantic relationship. And it literally, like, one of the sites described like conflict between the two. And I swear they could have written our most recent conflicts or like arguments or like fights or whatever almost verbatim. The types of interactions, the types of conflict, things that we conflict over, it was just to a T. So I think it's like, yeah, obviously a little bit probably coincidence, maybe a lot of it's written very vaguely, so it can probably apply to a lot of different situations, but I get that. But it was so validating in a way that there's nothing wrong with us, there's nothing wrong with each of us as an individual, nor is there something wrong with us as a collective group, I think, like unit. I think that it was just a matter of communicating in a different way, and really identifying each other's types and how your different personality traits are going to drive how you interact in a situation, how you perceive a situation, how you're affected by a situation. And with us coming off of the recent, miscarriage, I was really feeling unseen by him and misunderstood completely. And I think once we kind of opened up those lines of communication, he was giving me space, which I was interpreting as carelessness and indifference, and obviously you're not affected by this and you don't care. It was just coming off a completely different way than original intention. It was just a really healthy exercise for us as a couple. It was just such a silly little thing, but I think it's changed us a lot, kind of. And it sounds kind of crazy to think about, or for me to even say that this changed us in a big way, or helped our marriage in such a way. And like I said, it's not that we were like really having problems, but I think that when you go through something that's not normal, I mean, I don't think it's normal to have this many miscarriages. Like when you go through something and you're obviously processing that thing like in your own personal way. And even though he and I were both in the same boat, we were both, lost this idea, this pregnancy, this child that we had hopes and dreams and plans for, just processed it very differently. And for me, I was not understanding him, and he definitely wasn't understanding me. I highly recommend doing this fun little test for yourself. If nothing else, just like a little entertaining activity. And like everyone's staying at home now, you have nothing, people have a lot more time at home, so you have to kind of fill in the time with something. So, we actually got our test from, it was Truity, so TRUITY.com. If you ever feel misunderstood or your partner and you are just not communicating well, then maybe this is like a fun little activity to do and to try. Pour yourself a drink. Alcohol, I feel like in moderation helps these types of conversations and interactions. I think it just kind of loosens everybody up, makes them more open. But I mean, a little bit of a disclaimer too. I think that this activity would only work, or would only probably be helpful if both people are kind of on board and are open to just doing it and just taking it in the right way. I did want to share like a little bit more, because I do wonder if a lot of other adoptees or have similar backstories to my own, I wonder if they're also fours, because I just feel like a lot of the descriptions tie into like identity and tie into like how you perceive yourself. So fours are defined by their belief they're different from other people, and they worry they'll never have the happiness that other people experience. At their core, fours feel they are fundamentally flawed, which I definitely feel, and will never be able to truly be understood by other people. And I've never felt truly understood by anyone. Like not my parents, even my husband. Like I think he's the closest one for sure, because we've done a lot of work in that area, and I've shared probably a lot more with him than anyone else. At the same time, they passionately long for the type of deep connection that will make them feel whole and accepted. And I think growing up in a situation where you don't really feel connected to anyone, I think you are always longing for that. And I think it's this lifelong, like, so I wonder how many other adoptees are also fours, because I feel like this embodied like everything that I've struggled with and felt from like a very young age. It also says like, many fours romanticize and idealize their relationships, hoping that each new connection will be the one that finally makes them feel understood and appreciated. Although fours experience sadness over their separation from others, they also value their own uniqueness. They see themselves as special and want to express their individualism. Being different from other people is a double-edged sword for fours, both a badge of honor as well as a source of suffering. I agree with a lot of this. Yeah, their core belief is I am different and misunderstood. Core fear is being ordinary, unspecial, or insignificant, living a mundane or unimportant life, being abandoned or rejected because of some inherent flaw or deficiency. Like if that doesn't resonate with every like given up abandoned child, or a child that was like relinquished, then I don't know. And fours tend to feel sadness more readily than fear in some way. The four's sadness is a way of preemptively experiencing their fears. Instead of worrying about rejection, the four grieves relationships as if they've already been rejected. Digging deeper into sadness and grief often reveals the core fears of the four, and their core desire to find true understanding in an authentic and unique identity, to connect deeply with another special person and who appreciates my uniqueness, who appreciates uniqueness. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, oh God, yeah. So childhood origins. In childhood, most fours experience a sense of loss or abandonment. This can be a profound loss, such as the death of a loved one, or something more subtle, like the loss of attention from parents when a younger sibling arrives. The four's characteristic envy has its origins in this early sense of something missing. In relation to their families, fours often feel like the black sheep or the outsider. They may not identify as being much like either parent, and tend to feel like that the people closest to them don't understand them very well at all. This feeling of being misunderstood creates distance between the four and other people, which echoes into their relationships as adults. The four's search for identity also originates in childhood. Because fours grow up and feeling like outsiders, they don't readily take on the aspects of shared identity that might come from their families or communities. This could literally have been written for me. Rather, they feel they must search for and even invent their own unique identity. This search for belonging and the sense of self that comes with it is a lifelong occupation for fours. How many other adoptees watching this can relate to any of this? It's so interesting. So the Enneagram, in a nutshell, I think it's really interesting. Like, I kind of like this kind of stuff anyway. I don't know. My husband like would describe it like I eat it up, you know, like by the spoonful kind of thing. But I think it's fun, and I don't think there's any harm in it. And I think that this validates like the fact that there's a whole like group of personality types that are, you know, characterized by all these things. Like, I guess makes me feel in some way part of something else. Like, you know, I'm sure there are lots of other 4s out there, and I'm sure a lot of other adoptees are 4s. Though I'd be really interested to know like the actual stat on that if there was one. Anyway, so I don't want this to be super long. I just wanted to share. My husband and I are fine. We were not having like true marital issues, I would say. I think that we were just going through a tough spot, and we just weren't communicating well, and it was kind of bleeding over into like a lot of areas of our lives. Like, I feel like I just felt a little bit down with everything. I just was not myself for a little while there. So, and I feel like this was like a fun thing, and I think it did help us. So I hope it can help somebody else. I hope that other people will try this and just, you know, see if it opens up lines of communication, because what relationship couldn't use a communication check, basically. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.